Let me ask you about the your views about organic pesticides and fertilizers and things like that. So what I really like about your work is that you seem to always be looking for the facts and the figures and the argument, and not so much kind of going with one ideology or another. And so in this case, here you are in the Just Food book, I think, attacking the thought that organic is better, on partly on the grounds that some of the fertilizers and pesticides that are used that are organic are just as bad, at least in terms of cancer-producing agents, as some of the synthetic ones. Is that something that you have gotten any feedback about or any change in
Yeah,
your own thinking?
actually, yeah, I think the
Yeah.
discussion that we're having about organic agriculture is far more sophisticated today than it was when I wrote Just Food. And I
Okay.
think consumers are increasingly aware that, whereas 10 years ago they might have thought that organic, meant that no chemicals were used in
Yeah.
the production of this food. I think people are now aware that chemicals are used, they're just not synthetic chemicals.
Right.
And so they're natural chemicals. So I think the next step is to kind of become a little more aware about how dangerous natural chemicals can
Right.
be, to humans and to the environment. Now, we don't really hear about that because, I mean, organic agriculture still is a very, it's a minuscule portion of our
Yeah, it
overall
is. It really is.
agricultural production. So whatever potential problems might come with scale haven't come about yet. But actually think another way to think about this is I just think organic and conventional is actually a terrible way to think about
Hmm.
uh, uh, of agricultural production. I think in many ways it's a false dichotomy. Organic is sometimes a better way
Mm-hmm.
to, given the particular climate and given the particular crop, organic makes a lot more sense. But there are many cases where the conventional approach makes a lot more sense.
Right.
There are documented cases in California where organic regulations prevent farmers, very often farmers may only need to spray once for a particular outbreak of a particular pest. And of course, if you're an organic farmer, you can only spray with or an organic pesticide.
Yeah.
Well, there are many cases where if that farmer could spray, a one-time or maybe a two-time spray with a less potent synthetic pesticide, he could solve the problem with much less potency than if he had used an organic pesticide. So, in a lot of ways, organic farmers are forced to make a worse decision in terms of toxicity because of the organic designation. And so, I just try to highlight these cases to encourage consumers to think in a bit more of a complicated way
Right.
and to not lump a bunch of associations onto organic that it really doesn't deserve. In some cases, it might be the right association, but in other cases, it might not be the right association. And I think in a lot of ways, what matters is management. And this kind of, I realize now I'm kind of sounding
Sounding like
like
Salatin. Yeah.
right, but I
Yeah.
think actually with vegetables it does make more sense. With fruits and vegetables, it does make more sense because um, properly managing dosage and controlling for levels of toxicity and using it even comes down to the kind of sprayers that are used. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, all of these things that we don't think about or really talk about, whether or not your farm is irrigated with slow drip irrigation or a heavier form of irrigation, how much rainfall you get. I mean, all these factors really influence the impact that a particular chemical has on human health and on the environment. So I realize that that forces us into the position of making decisions about what to purchase on a case by case basis, and therefore rendering the whole project impossible.
Right.
But I will point out that I think Whole Foods has started to initiate this produce evaluation
Hmm.
uh, kind of scheme where they're going to kind of rate produce based on a number of factors. And I look forward to seeing how that pans out because
That's
I think
interesting.
what you'll find is that it does kind of muddy the organic conventional distinction in some interesting ways.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to sort of wrap this up, yes, the chemicals that we use in organic agriculture can be quite dangerous, often more dangerous than we use in conventional agriculture, but not all the time. And I just think we need to be very careful about associating conventional agriculture with environmentally destructive
Yeah.
and harmful agriculture and organic agriculture as being somehow pristine and immune to the problems that we often associate with conventional agriculture.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's just a lot more complicated than that. And
Yeah.
the last point I'll make is that if you're making the choice to even eat your fruits and vegetables over processed foods or a lot of animal products, I mean, in and of itself, that's a good choice, and you can feel pretty good about that decision, I would say.